Chosen one, stop for a moment and truly hear me, because what I'm about to unveil isn't merely a fleeting word, it's a sacred command, a thunderous call echoing from the very heart of God Himself, crafted just for you. Your arrival here, in this precise sliver of time, is no twist of fate, no haphazard stumble through the chaos of life. No, this is divine orchestration. God Himself has carved a path through the wilderness of your days to bring you to this moment, and He's done so for one unshakable reason: you are not like the rest, you are the chosen one. Let those words sink into the marrow of your being, let them ripple through the quiet corners of your spirit. You are the chosen one. Now, cast your mind back to the chapters of your life that still ache when you touch them. You've walked through valleys shadowed by financial hardship, where every step felt like a battle against an unrelenting storm. You've known the sharp sting of struggle, the heaviness of dreams deferred, the piercing ache of watching others climb to heights of ease and abundance while you stood below, hands empty, heart bruised. Perhaps you felt the weight of eyes judging you, voices mocking you, or worse, the silence of being overlooked entirely. I see you in those moments, chosen one. You've carried that pain, wrestled through sleepless nights, and whispered prayers into the dark, wondering if they'd ever be answered. And here's the truth that binds us: God sees you too. He's witnessed every tear you've hidden, every doubt you've buried, every wound carved by the humiliation of not having enough. But listen closely, because this is where the story turns. You weren't forged in those fires to be broken, you were shaped to rise. Everything, absolutely everything, is about to shift in ways that will rewrite the script of your life, in colors so vivid your soul can barely fathom them yet. God is speaking to you right now, His voice cutting through the noise. Money will flow to you like water, not a trickle, not a drop, but a roaring river of abundance, crashing through every dam of lack that's ever held you back. This isn't a distant hope or a vague promise, it's a divine guarantee, pulsing with life, ready to flood your world. But here's the key, chosen one: this miracle demands your response. God isn't handing you a gift to sit idly by, He's inviting you to step forward, to claim it, to align your spirit with the unstoppable tide He's unleashing. Can you feel the ground trembling beneath you? The universe is tilting in your favor, the stars are aligning to light your way, and all of creation is holding its breath, waiting for you to say, "Yes, I'm ready." Let's ignite this moment together, right here, right now. If your heart is leaping, if your spirit is whispering that this is your time, I need you to join me in 3 simple acts of faith. Hit that like button to declare you're in sync with this sacred call, subscribe to this channel. We're racing toward 10,000 chosen ones, and your presence will tip us closer to that holy milestone. And leave a comment below with the number 999, your personal signal to the cosmos. A flare of belief that says, I am here, and I am open to receive. These aren't just clicks or words, they're your first steps into the floodgates of prosperity, your way of telling God and the universe, I'm all in. Now, chosen one, before we go further, let's anchor this truth deep within you. Close your eyes for a heartbeat and travel back to that moment, the one where you felt smallest, where the weight of not enough crushed your spirit, where the laughter of others or the cold indifference of the world made you question your worth. Hold that memory tight, not to dwell in its pain, but to mark it as your turning point. That's your anchor, your sacred ground zero. It's not where you end, it's where your ascent begins. From this day forward, that shadow becomes the soil where God plants His greatest work in you, where He lifts you from the ashes into a blaze of abundance and glory. Do you feel the shift? Are you ready to step into the light? Stay with me, because what's coming next will shake the foundations of everything you've known and set your soul ablaze with wonder. Chosen one, let this truth settle into your bones. Right now, this very moment, is your time, not tomorrow, not next year, but today. For too long, you've carried the weight of a life that didn't seem fair, haven't you? Think about it, those nights when the bills piled up higher than your hopes, when folks whispered behind your back because your paycheck couldn't keep up with their expectations, when you felt the cold slap of rejection just because your pockets didn't jingle with spare change. Maybe you've stood in grocery lines clutching coupons while others rolled by with carts overflowing, or maybe you've heard the snickers from people who sized you up by your worn-out shoes instead of your worn-in heart. That sting of being judged, mocked, or flat-out ignored because of money, it cuts deep, doesn't it? But here's where the page turns, where the whole story flips upside down. God sees every second of that struggle, and He's not leaving you there. He's lifting His mighty hand to rewrite your tale, to take you from the sidelines of shame straight to the center stage of His favor. You're not the forgotten one anymore, chosen one, you're the one He's calling out by name, saying, "This is my child, my chosen." The Bible backs this up in Psalm 30 verse 5, "Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning." That long, lonely night of scraping by, of wondering why it's always you who gets the short end. It's ending. Dawn's breaking, and it's bringing a flood of wealth, a river of abundance so wide and deep it'll sweep away every memory of not enough. But God's not just snapping His fingers to make it happen, He's partnering with you. That blessing's close, so close you could almost touch it, but He's asking, are you ready to reach out and grab it? Let me tell you about Martha from Macon, Georgia. She was 52, a single mom who'd spent decades behind a cash register, ringing up other people's plenty while her own kids wore hand-me-downs. Her family smirked at her, called her stuck, and she'd cry herself to sleep some nights, wondering if God had forgotten her address. Then one Sunday, sitting in a pew with a threadbare coat, she felt a nudge, not loud, just a quiet voice in her soul saying, "Trust me, Martha." She went home, wrote, "I believe," on a scrap of paper, tucked it in her pocket, and started praying over it every day. Within months, a friend mentioned a job opening, nothing fancy, just office work, but it paid twice what she'd ever made. A year later, she'd saved enough to buy a little house, and those cousins who'd laughed, they started asking her for advice. That's the kind of shift God's cooking up for you, chosen one, a turnaround so real it'll hush every doubter in your life. So here's your move, find something small, a coin, a folded note, anything that fits in your hand, and slip it into your pocket right now. Don't worry, we'll unpack what it means later, but for today, let it be your stake in the ground, your way of saying, God, I'm stepping into this. It's more than a trinket, it's a bridge from your yesterday to your tomorrow, a spark of faith you can feel every time you touch it. What's it going to be for you, chosen one? A penny? A prayer written on a napkin? Whatever it is, it's your yes to God, your shout into the heavens that you're done with lack and ready for plenty. Let's lock this in together. If your heart's pounding, if you're nodding along thinking, this is me, this is mine, I want you to jump in, leave a comment below with, I'm ready, Lord. Just 3 little words, but they're a megaphone to the universe, a banner waving high that says you're claiming your time. Tell me, what's holding you back right now? What's that one hurt you're ready to let go of? Drop it in the comments with, I'm ready, Lord, and let's watch God move. Can you feel the air shifting around you? That's the sound of wealth knocking, of favor rising, of your moment breaking wide open, because this, right here, is your time. Chosen one, let's sit down together and trace the winding road of your life, because every mile you've traveled, every rocky stretch, every steep climb, has been leading you to this very moment. Those years when money was tight and hope felt even tighter, they weren't just some pointless detour. No, they were God's workshop, where He's been shaping you, molding you, turning you into something stronger than you ever imagined. Think back to those days, the ones where you stared at a stack of bills you couldn't pay, where you skipped meals so your family wouldn't have to, where you swallowed your pride and smiled through the no thank you from yet another job that didn't pan out. Maybe you've lain awake at 3 a.m. The house quiet except for the hum of worry in your head, wondering how you'd stretch $1 till Friday. Or maybe you felt that hot flush of shame when someone smirked at your beat-up car or your thrift store coat, as if a number in your bank account could measure the size of your soul. Those struggles, chosen one, they weren't for nothing. They were God's chisel, carving you into a warrior of faith, someone who could stand firm when the winds howled and still believe the sun would rise. Haven't you noticed it? That grit deep in your gut, that spark that kept you going when quitting would have been easier. Every single trial was part of his plan, not to tear you down, but to build you up for a destiny so big it'd take your breath away. And here's the heart of it, that pain you carried, it wasn't a curse from above. It was a refining fire, a furnace God turned up to burn off the doubt, the fear, the "I'm not enough" lies you've lugged around too long. What's left now is you, pure, tough, ready for greatness. The Bible lays it out in James 1 verses 2-3, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance." That's your story, right there. Every late rent payment, every "maybe next time" you've heard, every tear you brushed off your cheek before the kids could see. God's been watching, chosen one. He's tallied every heartbreak, every whispered, "Why me?" every night you fell asleep praying for a break. He's seen it all, and he's saying, "Hold on, I'm about to change everything." Let me paint you a picture with Earl from Dayton, Ohio. Earl was 58, a wiry guy with calloused hands from 30 years on a factory line, until the plant shut down and left him with nothing but a rusty pickup and a stack of bills. His neighbors drove shiny SUVs while he boiled water for oatmeal, and his sister once laughed, "Earl, you'll never get ahead." It stung. He'd sit on his sagging porch swing, staring at the stars, asking God if he'd missed his shot. One gray morning, he found an old notebook in a drawer, started jotting down every hard day he'd pushed through, every time he'd fixed a leaky roof himself, every time he'd walked 3 miles to save gas. Then he wrote, "God, I'm still here." Something clicked. A week later, a buddy called about a janitor job at a warehouse. Earl took it, showed up early every day, and soon they put him on payroll full-time. A year later, he was painting his house a bright blue, grinning as his sister drove up, wide-eyed, asking, "How'd you do it?" He just pointed up and said, "He saw me." That's God's plan for you too, chosen one, a turnaround so real it'll rewrite how people see you, how you see yourself. So tell me, what's that one moment you thought you'd never get past? That day you hit rock bottom but somehow climbed out. When did you feel God's hand, even if it was just a faint tug on your heart? Your struggles have a purpose. Can you feel them stitching together into something new? What's that weight you've been hauling around that you're ready to drop today? Let's make this personal, right here, right now. If your spirit's stirring, if you're nodding along thinking, "That's my life he's talking about," I want you to jump in, leave a comment below with, "God sees me." It's your stake in the ground, your shout to the sky that you know he's been there through every storm, and you're ready for the sun to break through. Go ahead, spill it out. What's that one hurt you're handing over to him today? Add it to your "God sees me" in the comments, and let's watch him take it and turn it into gold. You're not just hanging on anymore, you're rising up, because God's been with you every aching step, and he's about to show the world the masterpiece he's been crafting in you. Chosen one, you're not just standing at the doorstep of abundance, God's handing you the keys, the tools to fling that door wide open and let wealth pour in like a long overdue rain. Let's unpack these gifts together, because they're simple enough to hold yet mighty enough to shift your whole world. Start with this, a clean piece of paper and a pen. Write 1111 in bold strokes across it. That's no ordinary number, it's a sacred signal, a heavenly Morse code blinking straight to the universe that your heart's desires, those quiet dreams you've nursed through the lean years, are syncing up with God's perfect timing. That pristine paper's your fresh canvas, a blank page scrubbed clean of past mistakes, old debts, and faded hopes. It's where your faith gets to speak loud and clear, where your intentions stand tall without a speck of doubt muddying them up. Fold it small, slide it into your wallet next to your last few bucks, and every time your fingers brush it, it's a whisper back to you, "I trust you, God, I'm ready for the overflow." Can you picture it sitting there, glowing with possibility every time you pay for a coffee or count your change? What's that one dream you'd write beside that number if you dared? Next, dig out a silver coin, maybe a quarter from the jar on your dresser, or that old dime you've kept for no reason. This isn't just pocket lint, it's a charm of divine favor, a little piece of metal turned into a magnet for wealth by the power of your belief. Hold it in your palm when you pray, let it warm to your touch as you pour out your needs, maybe for a bill paid, a roof fixed, a little extra to breathe easy. Carry it with you, let it clink against your keys, a steady reminder that prosperity's not some fairy tale, it's a promise God's already cashing in. When's the last time you held something and felt it carry your hopes? What would it mean to you to feel that coin and know it's pulling blessings your way? And here's the third piece, flip that 1111 paper over and make it a double-sided vow. On the back, scribble down 2 lists. First, the good you've sown, the time you gave your last $5 to a friend in a bind, the nights you prayed for your kids when you had nothing else to offer, the smile you forced at the grocery store even when your cart was near empty. That's your ledger of worth, proof you've got a heart God delights in. Then, list the battles you fought, the weeks you juggled shut-off notices like hot potatoes, the months you patched shoes instead of buying new ones, the years you kept your head up when the world tried to shove it down. That's your badge of honor, a roll call of every time you didn't quit, a neon sign to God that you've earned your stripes. Tuck that paper back in your wallet like a handshake with the heavens, a pact that says, I've been faithful, now it's your turn. What's that one good deed you've never told anyone about? What's the hardest day you survived that you'd put on that list? The Bible seals this truth in Matthew 7 verse 7, ask and it will be given to you, seek and you will find, knock and the door will be opened to you. God's not playing hide and seek with your blessings, He's begging you to reach out, to knock loud, to believe He's already swinging the door open. Let me take you to Betty in Tulsa, Oklahoma, a 55-year-old widow who'd lost everything but her grit when her husband died. She lived in a trailer with a leaky roof, stretching Social Security checks thinner than a worn-out blanket. People at church clucked their tongues, poor Betty, but she wasn't buying the pity. One stormy afternoon, she ripped a scrap off an old bill, scratched 1111 on it, and stuffed it in her purse next to a beat-up nickel her dad had given her decades ago. Every night, she'd clutch that nickel, praying for a way out, and on that paper's back, she wrote, fed the neighbor's dog when I barely had food myself, and went a year with no heat. She carried it everywhere, a quiet rebellion against giving up. Then, out of the blue, her cousin called, needed a cook at his diner, nothing fancy, but steady paying tips. 6 months in, she'd patched her roof, a year later, she'd bought a used Buick, and those church folks. They started asking, Betty, what's your secret? She'd just tap her purse and say, God gave me the tools, and I used them. That's your story unfolding too, chosen one, God slipping these tools into your hands, daring you to believe they'll work. So what's holding you back from picking them up? What's that one need you're afraid to pray over that coin? Can you feel these little things, paper, coin, words, stirring up faith you forgot you had? What's that moment of kindness or survival you'd write down to remind God you're ready? Let's lock this in together. If your spirit's jumping, if you're itching to grab these tools and run toward your wealth, leave a comment below with, I'm claiming it. It's your battle cry, your promise to God and yourself that you're done waiting, you're taking what's yours. Go ahead, tell me, what's that one blessing you're knocking for today? Add it to your, I'm claiming it, in the comments, and let's watch the heavens answer back. Anchor effect transition, now, chosen one, pause and rewind to that day you felt poorest, not just in your wallet, but in your soul. Remember that ache, that weight of, never enough. Hold it close for a second, not to stay there, but to anchor this truth, that's where you were, not where you're going. That low point's your launch pad now, the solid ground God's building your riches on. These tools, they're your ticket out, your bridge from then to now, and I promise you, what's coming next will light up that darkness with a glory you've only dreamed of. Stay with me, because the best is yet to come. Chosen one, we've walked this road together, and now we're standing at the edge of something so big, so beautiful, it's like the sun breaking through after a lifetime of storms. This is your conclusion to the hard days and your wide-open door to a divine destiny God's been crafting just for you. Those years of struggle, The ones that ground you down like sandpaper on rough wood, the times you counted nickels to buy bread or turned off the heat to save a buck, they're fading into the rearview mirror. That chapter of dodging late notices, pasting a smile over a hurting heart, and wondering if God forgot your address. It's closed, sealed, done. Now's your moment to shine, chosen one, to peel off the weight of not enough and step into a light so bright it'll blind every doubt you've ever had. You're not just chosen to get by with a little cushion in the bank, no, you're handpicked by God to stand as a living, breathing billboard of His power, His love, His unshakable promises. That wealth heading your way, the kind that turns you into a millionaire. It's not just cash in your pocket, it's a holy stamp of approval, a megaphone blasting to the world that God keeps His word, that He lifts up the weary and says, "Look what I can do with a heart that holds on." This isn't about fancy cars or big houses, though they might come, it's about a richness of spirit, a legacy of faith that'll echo long after you're gone. How does that sit with you, knowing every tear you've shed is turning into a crown? What's that one hope you've clung to that's about to bloom? But God's not dropping this in your lap without your say-so, He's waiting for you to lift your eyes, square your shoulders, and claim it. So get ready, chosen one. Start expecting the phone to ring with opportunities, the mailbox to overflow with favor instead of bills, the days to feel lighter because you're walking in His plan. Step into this divine destiny with every ounce of faith you've got, with a heart full of thanks for how far He's brought you. Can you feel that shift, that whisper in your soul saying, "It's here"? What's that one thing you've fought for that you're about to hold in your hands? Let your success roar it out, "I'm chosen, I'm loved, and I'm shining brighter than I ever dreamed." Let's wrap this up with a prayer together. Lord, we stand here as your children, grateful for every valley you've carried us through. Open the floodgates now, pour out your blessings, and let us walk bold into the destiny you've promised. Strengthen our faith, fill our hearts with joy, and use us to show your glory. Amen. And chosen one, before we part, I've got to say this from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank you for listening, for sticking with me, for being brave enough to believe there's more for you. You're not just an audience, you're family, warriors of faith who've kept me going too, and I'm so honored to share this journey with you. Let's seal it tight now. If your spirit's leaping, if you're ready to run into this millionaire life God's laid out, leave a comment below with, "My time is now." It's your handshake with heaven, your shout to the rooftops that you're taking every promise He's made. Tell me, what's the first thing you'll do when that wealth lands? Who's that one person you can't wait to show what God's done? Drop it in the comments with, "My time is now," and let's lift each other up as we step into this greatness together. Take a deep breath, chosen one. Can you taste the freedom, the peace, the joy that's yours? It's not just a new day, it's your divine destiny, and you're walking into it right now.